I am a sophomore music composition major.
I'm the academic administrative assistant for psychology.
I'm a professor in biology and environmental studies, and I study biochemical cycling.
I am a sophomore in a biology major.
I'm class of 2011, and my major is computer science.
I'm professor of religion and chair of the department of religion.
I work in the science library at St. Olaf College.
I'm a sophomore chemistry major.
I'm Katie, and I teach statistics.
I am a political science and English major.
I work at the Bon Appetit in the Cage.
I'm a BA instrumental music ed major and a math education major.
I am currently chair of environmental studies and also hang out with the chemistry department.
I'm a senior physics and math major.
I'm pretty aware of environmental issues that we face, I think. I've taken several environmental studies classes that have definitely amplified that knowledge.
I wouldn't say I'm terribly aware. I try to be, but it's not really a focus of mine.
Not unaware, but not totally aware, so somewhere in the middle of both those.
I'd say fairly aware. I won't go to say that I know everything about all the issues, but I know a little bit about a lot of them.
I wouldn't say I'm super aware, but I definitely make an effort to know what's going on, so I don't know, maybe like 70% or so.
I'd say I'm 75% aware.
Like 50-50?
Only moderately aware.
Not really aware.
Somewhere around there.
I was more so in ecology because my professor liked to talk about those issues, but it's first semester, so I'm not quite up to date anymore.
Well, I teach in environmental studies. I teach the intro to environmental studies class, so the answer better be a lot, like very aware.
I guess, like when I first hear about an issue or something, it's usually by word of mouth. And then if I want to find out more information, sometimes I look stuff up online, or if there's just like an article, newspaper, or something that I see, then I'd read that.
I don't really go out and investigate. I just have a bunch of links for news sites on like my Facebook and MySpace, and my wife goes on the Amazon and she'll send me things, but I don't actually avidly look for it.
Probably the internet.
People put things up and I read them. I don't go out of my way to get information, but if the information comes to me, I usually take it in.
Newspapers, popular media, whether it's video clips.
Well, it kind of depends on what you mean exactly. Like, I spend a lot of my spare time is doing science projects. So I'm studying environmental science from a sort of basic science point of view.
Video clips, online news sources across the political spectrum, public radio.
Basically by reading articles and commentaries in journals and good newspapers.
And then a variety of newspapers and popular publications like Time, Newsweek, so you get the current view there.
Normally I'll just do like a web of science sort of thing.
And then most of my other stuff actually comes out of peer-reviewed literature, so whether it's government reports that have been peer-reviewed or peer-reviewed literature work of a variety of scientists in a whole bunch of spheres, so it's pretty comprehensive.
I think the most pressing environmental issue has to do with our overuse, or perhaps in some cases our reckless use of the resources of our earth. And I think that a lot of this reckless exploitation has its roots in human greed.
I think probably the biggest issue that we face is resource use. A lot of people just aren't aware of how much they use.
The resources. I'm concerned about rising gas prices, and it excites me for the opportunity for alternate fuel sources.
Yeah, I don't know. I would kind of want to say the current problems with energy that we're developing, but I don't know if that's really an environmental thing.
Water, I think. Protecting water, making sure we have enough usable and clean water for our children.
I think water, just the fact that that's probably the most precious resource we have, and there's possibility of running out of water.
The biggest environmental thing I can remember recently is the BP oil spill.
I don't know. Oil spills suck, but that might have been more of a one-time thing.
land and water use, so it's resource use, and related to that, climate, because they drive each other. So if you change one, you change the other.
The only environmental issue I think about a lot is global warming, and that seems like an issue, but not the most pressing of issues. I think Al Gore might be overdoing it a little, and some other people might be underdoing it a lot.
I have to say global warming, because we don't really know what's happening with it. It's sort of like very unknown. We don't know how it's going to affect us down the road.
Well, probably global warming.
Climate change. And the corollary there is that it's our decisions about energy policy that are going to affect how climate change plays out.
Probably the polar shift. I don't want to say global warming because I think it's a myth. I don't believe in global warming. I believe in physics.
I think the environmental issues need to be addressed now because the things that we are doing that affecting the environment need to be changed now so that in the future they don't get out of control and out of hand to the point where we can't do anything to change them.
To focus on that, I mean, you kind of need people to unite to do something like that, to address that, and since I guess internationally we're so divided, that's hard to do. So I feel like it's not really the first thing you can do. You kind of have to address other issues first to be able to move forward with that.
I think that the only way it seems to me like we're going to actually be able to address environmental issues is to have political reform, because it's not the individual users who are having the individual families that are having like the biggest effect on the environmental problem. It's corporations and it's governments who are regulating corporations.
I think it's reasonably important because, you know, I don't want this planet to get messed up.
I would rank it fairly high.
Pretty much number one.
I think it should be at the top of our list. Unfortunately, I don't think it is.
Oh, it's number one. It's the thing that will determine whether human society survives.
I'd say it's probably one of the most important ones because everything else can be worked out one way or the other, but if we ruin the environment, nothing else really matters after that.
I've turned more recently towards trying to act more environmentally friendly. And in terms of just little things like I don't use the dryers at school, I just dry my clothes.
Well, I don't own a dryer. I hang clothes out in the summertime, and in the wintertime we have clothes racks.
One is that we diligently recycle.
I collect all their aluminum cans, throw them in the backseat of my car so I can go out and recycle them, and also with the paper and the plastics, and at work we try our best to tell people to reuse cups and all that kind of thing.
I recycle.
I recycle.
We recycle.
We recycle at home.
Well, I do the basic stuff like recycling.
If there's a recycling bin right there, I'll toss it into recycling. Otherwise, I usually just don't really bother.
We don't get catalogs, and we work really hard to try and not get a lot of excess mail.
We try to use as little as we need to reduce our needs.
I try to use as little water as possible, and I don't use the computer very much.
I avoid using paper towels because I feel like it's an unnecessary waste when I can just dry my hand on my pant leg, which will dry off in 2 seconds anyway.
I try to not use the paper towels when I use the bathroom.
I don't really think that anything I do myself will have a significant impact.
I do carpool and I do little things at home to try to reduce our energy use.
We're careful about how far we drive. I bike or walk when I can, but we live in the country, so that's not always possible.
We're a single-car family. We've instituted a contest at home, not just for economic reasons, but to see how often to track our actual vehicle usage.
I don't drive my car very much since I'm on campus all the time, so I think that helps a little bit. But other than that, I really don't do a whole lot.
Probably take longer showers than I should.
I'm disappointed with the general state of things, but I'm very optimistic about the future.
I feel optimistic. I think it's just gaining momentum, and it's exciting to see.
I would say I'm probably a little pessimistic about it, and I wish I was optimistic, but I'm not sure I am.
Well, I'm optimistic that 100 years from now, our attitude will be very different, that we will be a much more environmentally friendly species, put it that way.
I'm a little bit pessimistic. Like again with the BP oil spill, I don't think that BP was held accountable enough, and I don't think that that kind of accountability is going to happen until this issue is too large to handle.
I think I'm pretty apathetic because I think as much as we can do as a community and as individual households and things, that's really just a drop in the bucket of environmental issues, unfortunately.
I have faith in young people, and I see a deeper consciousness about ecological matters in them, so I'm trying to believe that in the hands of our youth there is hope for change.
I guess kind of in the middle. I could really see it going either way. And, you know, even in the places where people are able to make the choices to become, you know, more environmentally friendly and think about that, there's always going to be the people that just don't care.
I feel optimistic because I think people are taking more of an effort to take care of the environment now that it's become more of a pressing issue.
If humans don't take care of it, that the natural world is going to be something that becomes unusable by us, and something that's not going to be able to sustain us. I think that the natural world will continue after us, though, so that way I'm sort of strangely optimistic.
I think it's becoming a more talked about issue in the last couple of years, so I think I'd like to stay optimistic about it.
Bit apathetic. Like, I don't think, you know, anything terrible is going to happen. I think it could happen, but not anytime soon. And I think anything would be preventable.
I think the future's going to be good because I have a little niece who's like 5 years old, and apparently these days they're teaching all the kids to recycle and take better care of the environment. So I think the next generation is going to be much more aware than my generation and maybe fix that.
In terms of place being an important part of our consciousness, I think we're actually building a really good trajectory forward. And I'm just hoping that trajectory moves into action.